because truthfulness is a straitjacket for storytelling. You can always make your story as wild and fantastic as possible if you don't tell the truth.
The Edison Ballroom. That's exactly where I'm going. And I'm going to be talking about marketing, brand building, and journalism. So this is an event for PR Week, which is a magazine, I think. And we're going to be talking about fake news, audience development, things that we know that might help brands, etc. I don't think I can record the actual event, but at least you got to see me come here. Look how pretty everything is.
Yeah.
But then maybe afterwards I can do an interview with some people about how they decide news. So now I'm outside of the PR Week event where I just spoke with several people, including Derek Thompson, who is a senior editor at The Atlantic.
Senior editor, that's right.
And I went on an angry tirade about fake news, and then you had some counterpoints, but ultimately I think we agree. I think fake news is going to get worse.
I think fake news is probably going to get worse as well because you don't yet have the safeguards yet to prevent it. So right now, you have Facebook and Google, which are algorithms of attention, not algorithms of veracity, right? Veracity is truthfulness is safeguarded by people who do their best to make sure that they fact check and double check and do all this stuff. There aren't yet robots and computers and algorithms that can do that as well, I think, as people can. So you have to throw people at the problem, and so far Google and Facebook have not done so. Just today in The Atlantic, I wrote this article about the first news hoax in American history in 1835. In the first penny press in New York Sun, they ran a 17,000-word article about men living on the moon. Obviously, this was false. It was designed to look like it was originally published.
People believed it?
People believed it. Yale University professors believed it.
Wow.
It was published as if it had originally appeared in the Edinburgh Journal of Science. And I tell a story of this 17,000-word installment in the Sun and give some lessons from it. One, I think, is that platforms that maximize for attention have a natural weakness, natural vulnerability for fakeness, because truthfulness is a straitjacket for storytelling. You can always make your story as wild and fantastic as possible if you don't tell the truth. Fiction outsells nonfiction in books. Fictional movies outsell documentaries. Like, storytelling is just easier when you don't tell the truth. The only way to safeguard against this, let's say the fix to the New York Sun and fake news in the 1830s wasn't a better New York Sun. It was the creation of the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal that essentially took the business model of the Sun and injected it with editors with ethics. And I don't know if that means that we need more ethics and more humans at Facebook, if we need new social networks that prize truthfulness over engagement and attention, but we definitely need some solution because there's nothing currently in place that's going to stop the flood of fake news.
We do need a solution, but then there's the challenge of, Google and Facebook have talked about having people curate, right? We saw YouTube recently change their algorithm to try and prevent conspiracy theories from appearing in the search. So
there won't be a solution that makes everyone happy. There's not going to be one. I mean, the New York Times, I think, was the solution to fake journalism. But what percent of the Republican Party thinks that the New York Times is devoted to fake news? Now that their president says that the Times is fake news, probably a lot of them. So I don't think it's the case that we're going to have one product that is going to be the new Walter Cronkite of America and every single person's going to believe it. I think we have to embrace the fact that we live in a culture that is nichified and polarized, and news sources should try to tell the truth constantly, understanding that they will be consistently criticized.
The challenge I see, but I agree with you, by the way, is that people's politics are going to get in the way. Someone's going to immediately, like you just said, the Republicans think New York Times is fake news, well, there's gonna be a lot of Republicans and Trump supporters who are like, it is. Look at the Iraq War, the stuff they published about weapons of mass destruction. Right? Was that willful? Was that wrong? Either way, it was fake news.
And I think that goes back to the point that I was making earlier in the panel, which is that I think there's a difference between fake news and news that is wrong. Right? There were lots of journalists, lots of smart journalists who were clearly incredibly wrong about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Some of them may have been purposely lying. I really think that some of them truly thought that they were doing their best possible work to show
they had
that
sources,
there were weapons
right?
of mass destruction. And there were sources, and you're only as good as your sources. You know, the New York Times published in 2016, I'm a Times subscriber, but they published in 2016, the FBI wasn't looking into the Trump campaign's Russia connections. Now, like, every single committee in Washington is looking into that. So again, news can be wrong, humans are wrong, journalists can be wrong. That's different from fake news. And any solution to the fake news crisis is going to involve humans who have the capacity to be wrong.
So let me ask you, we're hearing now about Russia. Russia's buying ads on Facebook. Russia's supporting YouTubers and trying to meddle in American politics. But Qatar has Al Jazeera Plus, Venezuela and other Central and South American countries have Telesur, and they're also buying ads. And Al Jazeera gets way more traffic here than any Russian outlet or individual or campaign. Why is the New York Times, CNN, all these other outlets only focusing on one issue? If we're supposed to trust these organizations as...
Why are they so focused on Russia?
Well, why is it that, I guess it comes down to the politics question. Russia's a hot story. It sells.
Well, and, the Qataris didn't try to meddle in the election. The Venezuelans didn't try to meddle in the election. They didn't buy, propaganda networks on Facebook and Twitter to try to influence voting in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
Well, hold on. Al Jazeera does buy ads, and a lot of them, and they get significantly more views on their content, which is the same as what Russia is doing.
I see what you're saying. So I mean, CNN has more, right? CNN has ABC.com has more viewership than RT.com, right? Like I'm with you on that point.
So let me ask you,
in terms of why we're focused on Russia, it's because one of our greatest nemesis of the last half century deliberately tried to skew the vote and plant false news stories in social media networks.
So it's
That's an important news story. Yeah, I think intention is important. Intention, scale, history, means, effect. I think all those are important variables.
Any final thoughts on the future? What's going to happen next? What should people do?
I think that Facebook and Google right now are in an interesting place where they're economically strong but politically weak. Their profits are going gangbusters, but their media narrative is suffering tremendously. And I can't see necessarily Donald Trump passing antitrust legislation that hurts Google and Facebook, but eventually you're going to get someone in the White House or in Washington that sees these duopolists or quasi-monopolists and says, something needs to be done about this. We can't just let you dominate the advertising market while having a deleterious effect on media consumption. I don't know what actions they're going to take, but I think Facebook is clearly scared enough about the narrative about the company right now that you see them taking all sorts of measures to correct it. I don't know what comes next. Maybe they hire 10,000 fact checkers.
I guess we'll see. Hey, thanks for talking, man. It's been a pleasure. Have a good one. I hope I have everything. Did I forget something? I don't know. I got a free bag. And that about wraps things up. It was a PR Week's event. I was speaking about fake news. I kind of went off. Almost caused some trouble, but left unscathed. So thanks for watching. I thought it was interesting hearing what Derek had to say. He works at The Atlantic, so he's got an interesting insight into the mainstream media and how these companies function. Follow me on Twitter at Timcast. If you want to support my work, go to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like, give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. Stay tuned for breaking news around the world. I got to figure out where I'm going next. And I'm going to focus a lot more on stories outside of the news cycle, because you know what? I just don't care anymore. I don't want to have to chase what Donald Trump is doing or the Russia nonsense. I'll try to make things as relevant as possible, but I want to make sure that we're not missing out on important stories simply because people are obsessed with certain topics. That being said, I'm going to be covering breaking news, but on the ground stuff as much as I can. And with winter coming, I'm going to be trying to get out of New York City as much as possible. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned. Breaking news, live streams around the world, and I'll see you then.